Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host. Um, I am here in Lowmore, Virginia at the Loves, just doing a half hour break. Um, so I want you to check out my T-shirt. This is a T-shirt that my cousin gave me, and it says "Who is Brandino?" And I'm gonna put a link to his YouTube channel in the comments, or excuse me, in the description. Um, Totally different content than what I do, but he's pretty talented, and take a look at it. It's not, I have different tastes in music, but it's still pretty good, and the talent is obvious. So, yeah, go on there, sub him, and he's also on social media and stuff. But he has some really cool music videos that are well produced. Like, he puts money into it, unlike me. Um, so yeah. So I wanted to just came back out yesterday. Today's Saturday. I wanted to kind of. Oh, sorry, B. Yes, and B's back in the truck with me. B, can you say hi? Can you say hi? B's back in the truck with me, just because we're gonna have some contractors in our house doing some work, and while some of them are there, my wife's not going to be home, and my daughter's going to be back in school. So one of the guys has done a lot of work for us, but he has a helper, and so my wife's like, I don't have anybody to watch the dog. Can you just take B on the road? So yeah, we're here on the road for a couple of weeks. Anyway, I wanted to. Something funny or weird happened to me today when I picked up in Smithfield, Virginia. So, it was just normal. I dropped my empty, went down the street a little bit, figured out, because I'd never really, I'd been to that location once, but I'd never actually picked up there. I just went there to get an empty one time. So I go in, I get my paperwork, and it was a little weird because I couldn't see anybody around. Like, the place was pretty vacant. So I find this office that I think is the shipping office, and I go in there, and the lady seems a little butthurt that I came in this office where the door is open. And I like, when I went in, I waved, right? And I was like, hey, and she goes, what do you want? I said, oh, I'm here to pick up a load. I'm from Prime. She goes, did you ring the bell? I said, no, what bell? And she's like, there's a bell back there. I was like, oh, by that booth out front? Yeah. I said, well, there wasn't anybody in there, so she's like, well, if you rang the bell, I would have come. I'm like, okay, well, here I am. Do you want me to go wait out there for you? Yes. So I go out there, and I actually rang the bell when I got out there, just to make it official. So she comes, she gives me my paperwork, she asks me to fill out something. I fill it out, she tells me the deal, and I'm like, okay, thanks. And she's like, because she asked me if it was my first time there. I'm like, yeah. She's like, all right, see you next time. So off I go. Walk out to my truck, which is now bobtail. I go find my empty, I do my routine, and I hook up to the trailer, and I proceed to the gate. I've already, signed the paperwork. Well, then, I roll down my window, but again, I don't know exactly what they want me to do, but they never make you get out of the truck when you come to that same gate. So I was like, I didn't think I would have to get out of the truck. So anyway, this woman comes out of the guard shack, and she's like, step out of the vehicle. And those are her exact words. Step out of the vehicle. And in my mind, I was like, what are you, a cop? So I'm like, okay. So I had my paperwork. I get down. She's like, she looks at me. She's like, do you have a weapon on you? I said, why are you asking me this? She's like, turn around. Like, she wants me to face the truck. So I turn around, but I'm like, what's the problem? And she's like, you don't have a weapon on you? I'm like, no, I don't have a weapon. She goes, do you have one in your truck? I said, why are you, what is this, 20 questions? I said, no. She goes, well, we got a report that it looked like you had something on you. I'm like, oh, really? Well, that's wrong. I said, not only do I not have a weapon on me, and she was like, well, I get to ask these questions because it's my job. And I'm like, well, okay, but I don't have a weapon. I don't even own a gun. Like none. Like zero. I own 0 guns. Not a 22, not a 12 gauge, not a hunting rifle, nothing. I don't own any guns. And so she said something else to me. I know. And then I said to her, I said, well, do you have a weapon on you? I mean, since we're, coming clean here. And then she walked inside, and there was a guy that came out, and he was totally cool. He's like, hey man, he goes, the lady said she thought you had something in your pockets. I'm like, yeah, I did. My keys and my phone. And he's like, yeah, man, I know. He was totally cool. He's like, look, we're cool. She just, the lady, I said, the lady upstairs, like that was the one that was upset that I didn't ring the bell. So anyway, he and I are cool. I get my paperwork, off I go. But it got me thinking about what I was gonna talk about anyway. And this is kind of in response to what, the video that Lyle put out. My friend Lyle at No Hippie Trucking and Transportation put out after I put my last video out, which was, the premise was, trucking companies don't care about you. Okay, so let me just respond to some stuff that Lyle said, because, I'm always willing to learn. So, the original premise is that trucking companies don't care about you. And I stand by that. Okay, I stand by that. But I want to expand on that and expound on that. Okay, those are two different things. And sometimes people use them interchangeably, but it's not really the correct. But anyway, I want to expand on that by saying that I would include all companies. And what I mean by that is that, companies are in business to make money. And so oftentimes for a company to make money or make more than they're making, they make a decision to do things that their workers would see as injurious sometimes. And let me say this, right? Like, I've spoken about like driver facing cameras. Like, I got paid extra at GP Transco to have a driver facing camera. I thought that was cool because the company could have put a driver-facing camera in my truck whether I wanted them to or not, because it was their truck. But they were willing, if I would allow it and basically uncover the camera, they would pay me extra. And I even did a video about how much extra over a course of a year that would be. And so, I'm like, because I actually worked at a place where they didn't give you a choice and they didn't pay you extra. So I was cool. I actually chose to uncover it because I was like, what do I care, right? But anyway, and there's a bunch of people, they're going to say stupid shit about freedom and liberty, and they're going to be wrong. But anyway, but that's not, to me, having a camera on me is not, monitoring my work is not injurious to me, right? It doesn't cause me injury. But now if they said, hey, we're gonna make you pay twice as much as you normally would, as you used to pay for health insurance, because the company is not gonna put any money in anymore. Okay, that's injurious to me in that it's something that I had that I now don't have. And companies do that because they just want to keep more of the money that they're making. And, this is across industries, right? I don't care whether it's IT, retail, food service, trucking, warehousing, working at a hospital, working for a school district, right? Companies and businesses and governmental entities a lot of times do stuff that hurts their employees without regard to the fact that it hurts their employees or without offsetting it somehow. Okay, so that's my expansion of that. It's not just trucking companies, but I had trucking companies on my mind. But to expound on that, right, it's kind of like it's a dog-eat-dog world, and we're all kind of pawns in that. And even, like you take a guy like Jeff Bezos, right, or like Bill Gates, they've made billions of dollars off the efforts of other people. Now, I'm not saying it's not off their own efforts, right? I'm not saying that they didn't have great ideas. But can you imagine if 20 years ago, Bezos couldn't get anybody to work for him, right? And, oh, by the way, Amazon's laying off thousands of workers, although not at warehouses. They're not laying off the low wage workers. They're laying off like people that work in buildings that have windows and they get to wear, like a nice shirt to work. But I think about like this international, I think it was called International Furniture Group, and the brand name they make is Lane. They emailed texted 2,700 people 2 days before Thanksgiving telling them they were terminated, that their company was closing. Now they knew, but why did they do that? When it's clear that they knew quite a while ago that they were heading in this direction. Why did they screw over 2,700 people? And by the way, there's a WARN Act suit going on in North Carolina over it right now, because you're supposed to notify the state and give people 60 days notice or pay them 60 days severance. But why did this company, International Furniture Group or whatever, do this? Well, because they could, right? I mean, now, they might lose this lawsuit, but here's the irony of it. I don't know that it's going to do any good, because I don't think that they're going to come up with the money in bankruptcy to pay everybody 60 days severance. I doubt that that's going to happen. But it would be nice if they held people personally liable for that, like the people that run the company. Again, not optimistic about that. But here's the thing. I want to be clear, and Lyle really did do a great job alluding to this. I'm 60 years old, right? I retired from the military. I have a pension. I have very, very low-cost health insurance that I've had since I was 38 when I retired, right? Or 39, I can't remember. I also, I have a law degree, right? I went to college. I practiced law. In fact, I'm still licensed. It's just kind of like administratively suspended because I didn't pay my bar dues, but I probably could go back to that if I had to. So I'm in a position, and oh, by the way, I said to Junior Honduras one time, he said something to me about, hey, this is, something about Prime. I had said something. He's like, well, you want to be careful. I said, you know what, man? I said, and I appreciate Junior because he's got a lot of experience at Prime. He's doing his thing. He's got his small fleet. There's a lot, he's got a lot going on and he's been successful. But I said something to him and he just kind of chuckled when I said, you know what, man? I said, I have never seen a trucking company that I love so much that I wouldn't leave it. Okay? And I stand by that. But you have to understand, if you're not me, if you're not in my position, and I have a wife that's college educated, she has a job, we've really downsized, so for me to just like land on my feet, even if it wasn't in trucking, wouldn't be too hard for us to just pay the bills and stuff. I wouldn't be going to La Boca Chica for, spring break, but I wouldn't be starving either. I wouldn't be like worried my house was going to get repo or foreclosed on or anything. I wouldn't be looking for a place to live. That's my situation. But if you're 25 years old and this is your first job, you know, maybe you don't want to do what I did at the place that the guy put his hands on me. And a lot of people supported me and said, yeah, man, I'd have broke his fingers, I'd have done this or done that. And, you know, I mean, I'm not really prone to violence, although, I mean, the lady at the place in Smithfield, Virginia, expected that I would have a gun. I'm sorry they're so scared. I don't even know where that came from. Like, but anyway, I kind of thought it would be funny to get like a shoulder holster and have like a hair dryer in it. So when I go back there next time, they're like, do you have a gun? And then I'm like, no. And they're like, what's that big lump? And I whip out a hair dryer. But they probably wouldn't think that was funny either. I mean, anyway, because I'm just a jackwagon some days. But, you know, just be careful. Pick and choose your battles, you know? And you know what I always tell my kids, you know, if you don't have a boat or you're not a really good swimmer, don't burn bridges, okay? I feel like I'm a good swimmer, but you know, you gotta pick and choose your battles. And truthfully, I don't want to get canned from any company, even if I know I can get a job somewhere else. I'll leave on my own terms. I'll leave without giving them any notice. I'll be like, oh yeah, today was my last day. But I don't want to get canned because I'm, you know, like abrasive or, you know, costing them money or anything. So, you know, not everybody's in my situation, like I said. Don't be me, okay? I guess that's what I'm saying. Be yourself and understand, you know, like Harry Callahan said, Inspector Callahan said, a man's got to know his limitations. I have push buttons in my life, a lot of them, but a few times I've gotten away with stuff that I, you know, after thinking about it a little bit, I was like, man, that probably wasn't a great idea. I've also been blessed and been fortunate that over many years in different endeavors, I've always had somebody that was a business partner or a colleague or something who would kind of say, you know, hey, you should, maybe we shouldn't do that, right? Because I will run ideas by people, you know, because I recognize I'm my own worst enemy. And so if you're that person and you're about to like go off on somebody, or, you know, maybe it's like you feel like you got to have a come to Jesus with your fleet manager or with somebody else, you know, run it by somebody, you know, say, just get another set of ears, another set of eyes. You might find out that your initial take on it is not exactly correct. And truthfully, getting back to what happened to me at that other shipper, my fleet manager wasn't wrong, you know, but I get that he's in an unenviable position because he's got drivers who are on the front lines, and then he's got the, as they would call them in Vietnam, the REMFs, REMFs, right? The rear echelon people looking over his shoulder. So he's got to walk a fine line, right? Like he's like, hey, you know, that was suboptimal, Terry. That was not what we want. And, you know, sometimes maybe the Prime does get, you know, something done for the drivers. But oftentimes I think it just, you know, once the steam blows off, nobody really follows up. You know, truthfully, this thing that happened today, I think it was kind of untoward, but you know, I'm not the first person that's been unfairly accused of something. And I recognize that I've been given the benefit of the doubt a billion times in my life because I'm a white male. And perhaps, just perhaps, there was a little bit of demographic profiling going on, right? They're like, I'm a 60-year-old white truck driver, male white truck driver. The odds of me having a gun are actually pretty high, right? Even though that's not me. You know, there's so many, and I told the dude when he came out, we fist bumped. I go, you know what, man, I get it, truck drivers. I said, I'm just not one of those guys that's scared of stuff. I don't walk around fearing for my safety and thinking I need to be strapping just to freaking make sure that I survive today. I mean, I'm gonna walk in the Loves here in a minute and get me a soda. I may get killed while I'm in there, but you know, I think that could happen even if I was packing. You know, but whatever. So anyway, have a good day. Don't be me sometimes. You know, and this was a good lesson for me. So I appreciate everybody's input. I appreciate Lyle, of course. We are good friends. He's right about that. We don't have any problem criticizing each other. We bounce ideas off of each other, and that's good. That's what a community is about. And yeah, you know, everybody has a bad day some days, and you know, everybody, you know, every once in a while you just run into that person that's like rubs you the wrong way, and your worst impulses bubble to the surface, you know. So anyway, B, you got anything else to say back there? I don't think she really likes being on a truck. It's not luxurious enough for her. Anyway, I appreciate everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.